Hi everyone, good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning. It's Friday the 26th of April 2024. If you're watching live, give me a hey. Let me know that you can see and hear me. Facebook is strange nowadays. The algorithm is messing with me big time. So even if you're the only person watching and you drop me a hello, that would be incredible. For those who don't know me, my name is Heidi Maver. I'm the founder of EOTAS Matters. I work supporting parents and carers of neurodivergent children who need to unlock bespoke packages of education through the EHCP system in England. The majority of our families are families of autistic kids who have barriers to attendance. And as part of our Changemaker series, we're interviewing people who are doing exciting things in the world of SEN, business, autism, other neurodivergencies. And so I've asked the lovely Liz Evans to come and meet with us today and to tell you a little bit more about their work. So super excited to have you here, Liz. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Liz is just coming out of COVID. So if something happens, like she goes really pale and disappears, that's why. But she's a trooper, so she's here anyway. But yeah,
on the husky side this morning.
I know you've been feeling a bit rubbish, so I'm glad that you're feeling a little bit better. So part of the Changemaker series is that we have like a 20-minute chat with people that are in my circle. Liz, I know through my work. She has a child who has an education otherwise in a school package. She's also a trained, qualified, proper occupational therapist. So she's an expert by experience and an official expert. She's a parent professional, and they are rare and precious breeds in our community. So we're going to have a little chat about your work today and find out a bit more about you and find out how people can get some support from you. So do you want to give us the potted history of kind of like a bit of your background and what you do now or what you're planning to do? I guess that would be a good jumping off point.
Yeah. So background is occupational therapist, but probably most importantly, first a mum. I've got 2 kids, one of whom is neurodivergent, diagnosed autistic with really high anxiety, and my other son is neurotypical. I'm diagnosed dyslexic, late diagnosed too. Always kind of knew, but never really was picked up. Quite a good masker. At school, and managed to kind of find my way through with 2 parents that are teachers. So hid my way through school. Went into the world of occupational therapy straight from school. Wanted to be a physio, but didn't get the grades, so I ended up as OT. And then has kind of spent my career working through a range of different settings. So have worked in CAMS, from kind of national inpatient wards through to community early intervention outreach, and then moved into areas such as community paediatrics. Again, although I moved into community paediatrics, always kind of ended up down the working with the autistic, ADHD kids, behaviour. Any worries about behaviour always kind of ended up in my caseload. Everyone was keen to hand them to me, and I love working with them, so I was happy with that. Did some work with a trauma unit as well, which was really amazing. And then went into the world of kind of working independently, where I think I made quite a lot of money for the people that I worked for, and decided that I'd quite like to branch out on my own, but kind of never really had the confidence to do that. I'm a single parent, so trying to kind of juggle it all. And then I suppose on top of all that, things are kind of going okay, but I knew probably from quite a young age that something was different for my youngest. He was really struggling. He had some problems at nursery, but kind of he's really bright. So he's mental level IQ. He's way brighter than I am. Can spell way better than I can, even from a very young age. So was achieving really well in school. So I found it really hard to get help because he was top of the class for everything, but was coming home and having meltdowns. He was refusing to go to school in the mornings. He was clinging onto railings. He was, all sorts of stuff. And I think what was really difficult was, being a professional and working in the area. I knew the systems, I knew what was going on, but I'd say I'm ashamed to say, but I've given myself a bit of a break now. I thought he had to go to school, and I was really frightened of being in trouble. And that the authorities knew and I would be in trouble, and I had to get this kid into school somehow. So we went through a horrible process, and in the end it broke him. And looking back, I wish I could change that. But I have made him a promise that we'll never, ever be in that situation again. And I mean that one, and I've got stronger. I think as you say, I've been through the diagnostic process through CAMHS as a parent, which was a whole different experience. We've been through applying for any HCP. We've been through 20 million caseworkers and things getting lost, and no one knows when it's happening, and I can't get hold of anybody. We've been through tribunal with a very challenging tribunal officer who all but finished me off. And I was saying to Heidi before that I had all this knowledge. I've worked through the systems. I know the systems, but I needed help. And my advocate literally picked me up and scooped me and my family up and carried us across the finish line. And we got there. So we've now got an ASOS package. He's at home with an ASOS package, which I'm trying to manage and now trying to work. So I stopped work for a little while, and then I've started to think about how I could go back to work. What could I do? What could I do to kind of help families out there that might be families that have been in my position? And I suppose that's where I've come to now, is this kind of, I'm kind of going off and branching off in a slightly different direction, moving away from kind of the HCP tribunal assessments that I was doing. And I still do quite a lot of supervision and consultation to schools, but thinking about what I could do a bit more online around kind of courses or groups that I could provide. So that's where I'm at now. And then the Untypical OT was born, which is very new. It's only been around for about 3 or 4 weeks.
It's amazing. When I was speaking to you, and when I just hearing you talk now, I think there are so many parent professionals, and they have like their eyes opened and like the scales fall from their eyes when they're on the other side. And I've spoken to so many parent professionals who say, I heard from parents about how hard this was. And it's not that I didn't believe them, but until I experienced it, I kind of didn't believe them. And then you're there and you've got, like you say, you've got all this expertise. You know what language to use. You know who to ask for. You know what the pathways are. And there's like this weird thing where you go into a meeting as a parent and all of your professional experience is like written off. Yeah. And there's no kind of like level playing field. My son is just out of sight, copying my hand gestures. Beggar off. Out. I can see him out the corner of my eye going like this. Cheeky beggar.
I've never felt so de-skilled, Heidi. I think I have never felt so just de-skilled. Yeah. And as a professional, I've run really difficult meetings, big meetings. Meetings don't frighten me or worry me. But as a parent, I was terrified, and I've never felt so de-skilled.
Yeah. And the power dynamic is just entirely different, right? Yeah. Even though you're sitting there, I've got another person in my circle, and they're a senior physio consultant in the NHS. And they go into meetings and they feel that small because of the dynamic and because of the way that the professional gaslighting is so intrinsic and inherent and like embedded in the system. So
your voice is so small as a parent. It certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
So small. And I never realised that until I was in that position.
The learning and I think also that kind of closes the door for you professionally, right? Because you're like, I can't go back because I've seen the truth. I can't go back and work in that system. Like, I can't be a part of that. And then you're like, now what? Like, is that your experience?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was one of those real light bulb moments, I think, when the trauma settles and you start to get over things, and there was a lot of trauma going through the process, not only for me, but my whole family, including my other son. Yeah. He lost a mum really in that time. I had to do a lot of thinking and headspace away from him, and we're trying to make that back up again. And he's amazing. He's brilliant. But it was definitely the most eye-opening thing I've done is sit in those meetings as a parent. And I think, and I still, run meetings occasionally, and I go into schools and things and do consultations and things, is that I feel now I've got a much stronger voice around what it's like to be a parent, and I think sometimes parents, we do get a bit of a bash in, about being that parent. I know you talk about being that parent. And I think I got told really early on when I was starting to go through this process, you're going to have to get angry, you're going to have to fight. And I'm not a fighter. I find it really hard. It makes me ill.
Yeah.
So I thought I've got to find a way of doing this. And I spoke to a lady, a very wise lady, and she told me I had to learn to be pleasantly persistent.
Nice.
And that works for me. Other people do it in other ways, but that works for me, to be pleasantly persistent and being constantly in somebody's inbox in a very pleasant way that I can always go, I wasn't being horrible, I wasn't being rude. And I need you to listen to me, and these are the reasons why.
Someone said to me early in the process, if you approach a door and it says push on it and you don't push it, it'll never open.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was useful information for me. Even though I knew the door was open, waiting for someone to open it for me from the inside, never going to happen. You've got to give it a push.
And I always said, I think
I'm it, but you have got to give it a push.
And I'm always I'm very understanding. So something I did, that's fine, I understand. And I've stopped being quite so understanding. And I started getting cross and angry doesn't work for me, and I said that's personal. But learning to be pleasantly persistent has helped.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So the work that you're kind of doing now, I'm excited because the thing that you're really passionate about and that you're focused on, and that is your zone of genius, is non-behavioral, non-ABA neuroaffirming approaches to behavior. Yeah, that's
yeah. Can I have that as a line for me?
Yeah, we'll write that down. Don't worry. So, can you speak a little about that? Like, I know that the Untypical OT Facebook page is up, and I'm going to put your email address up so people can contact you by email. And you've got a group coming very soon.
Yes.
But can you talk a bit about your philosophy and what that's about? Because this is really important work, and so many of our families need this.
Yeah. So basically, it's like Heidi said in a very much more eloquent way than I will do. But behaviour is my special interest. It always has been, even pre-kids. It just interests me. I think it's how my brain works, and I'm a bit of a why person. So I was thinking about when my kids were little and they used to do that, but why? I'm a bit like that, but why? And I use that, I think, I've always used it. And I think as an OT, we tend to think in that way anyway. So we look at a whole picture and we're very holistic. And when we look at kids, that we're asking all the time, but why? Why is that happening? Why are they struggling to do that? Why? And I think that became really important as well with my son, because at school he's a master masker, possibly a little like his mother. That at school he was compliant, he was achieving really well. He's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. He's absolutely fine. But he wasn't fine. He really, really wasn't fine. And I knew that. And I had to be able to dig really deep into the behaviour and understand why those behaviours were there. And I suppose that's
when you talk about his behaviour, do you mind? I don't want you to break any confidences, but could you explain what was going on for him?
So we would have huge meltdowns, which everyone, and me included at times, and my family, but there's no trigger. Why? I don't understand why he's melting down upstairs. And he had this ability to scream at a pitch that would break glass, that used to really distress my other son. And I knew I had to work out why. He's not just, I hate it. They're just. So he wasn't just being naughty. He wasn't just being difficult. He was having really big emotions, and they were coming out, and he didn't know what to do with them. And I had to help him. My job was to help him, and I had to become a bit of a detective. And I suppose that's kind of what I'm leading on to with the things that I'm going on to do is helping parents to become a behaviour detective and looking at the underlying reasons why. Because until you know the why, you can't help them. You can't. You've got to know why. You've got to dig down. You can't just come in at the top and prevent the behaviour, because then another one pops up and another, because you haven't given them a solution. You haven't helped.
And the approach is different, right? Like if you are making assumptions about why that behaviour is showing up as it is,
yes,
and you're assuming that they're being defiant or they're being naughty or they're testing your boundaries, you know, we have that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Then your approach to that might be put your foot down, don't take any crap, show them who's boss, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got a child and the reason that those things are happening is because their sensory system is on fire, their brain is shutting down, they're in deep distress, you coming in with like a heavy hand is not going to work, and it's going to make things a million times worse.
And sometimes the behaviour is a protection, and they need it. There's a reason for it being there, and actually by not allowing that behaviour can be so detrimental. And I think it's really important. You know, it's about the connection all the time. It's about the connection and making that child feel safe. That's I suppose that's where you have to start. Forget everything else. You have to start with the connection, and do they feel safe, and they have to trust you. It's
and
really
go on. Sorry,
I was just going to say, it makes them really. It makes all of us really vulnerable to talk about behaviour. We've all got behaviours possibly that we might not always choose to show other people or are particularly proud of. And when we talk about it, it can make people really vulnerable. And I know that sometimes even the word behaviour can be triggering for people.
There's a lot of shame attached to that word, right?
You say
and
behaviour,
we can't shy away from the word because it's the word that other people use about our children.
And it's what people understand. When I say behaviour, people understand what I mean. So I have purposely, I have gone away and done quite a lot of thinking around, do I change the word behaviour when I'm talking about things and calling? But actually, I've come full circle and decided to stick with the word behaviour.
Yeah. And your approach, as I mentioned, is you're an ABA free zone, right? Like you're like me.
Absolutely. It's one of my rules.
We are going to discuss it a little, but we're not going to get into there's good ABA. Like we don't do ABA, right?
I just don't discuss it. It's just not something I'm interested in discussing. I understand there are people out there that like it, want it, approve of it, whatever, teach it. That's absolutely fine. But just I'm not the right place for
not
you.
On my watch. Yeah.
Basically. And so I'm not going to bash you for it, but go do it somewhere else. That's just not what I'm interested in. And the other thing is behaviour charts. You won't see a behaviour chart anywhere near me.
So your approach is the other way up. Your approach
absolutely is kind of a bottom-up approach. Yeah, you're looking at the why and coming up rather than looking at the coming down. This is the behaviour we don't want to see. Can we squash it down and replace it with something else? You have to know the why. Yeah. And it's all about kind of that compassion. It's got to be around compassion and understanding and connection and safety. And knowing.
And I think sometimes people, and I haven't discussed this with you, but I'll throw it at you because I think it's a thing.
Okay.
When we talk about like low arousal, low demand, compassion-based parenting, avoiding behaviorism, avoiding, that's what ABA is rooted in, behaviorism, like push on through, increase their tolerance, build their resilience, all that jazz.
Encourage them to mask.
Yeah. Touch the fucking gate, all that, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about the opposite of that or the alternative to that or the different approach to that, and we talk about compassion-based low arousal parenting, like some people, you can practically hear them rolling their eyes and they think of it as like a bit wishy-washy and a bit woo. But your approach is like, nah, like this is evidence-based practice. Like I'm not just going, wouldn't it be nice if we're all kind? Like you know what you're talking about, right?
No. And definitely, I still believe in boundaries. My kids still have boundaries because that's what makes them feel safe.
Yes.
But we talk about things and we reflect on things, and it's safe for all of us. And I've had to learn to come and say, yeah, that wasn't my best behaviour, but you caught me and this was happening. And even things like I was having to think about today and trying to prep something yesterday, and my son came up and he's been really poorly, so have I, and he was chatting. He likes to talk, and he was chatting, and I just thought, shut up, and I had to apologise afterwards and say, I'm really sorry. So they see me do it as well. And we practice that in our home. But I'm not one that kind of just goes, oh, we'll just have free flow. Everyone does whatever they like. They talk however they like. They behave however they like. but you won't see a behaviour chart in my house.
Yeah, nice. So the group that you're setting up, which is kind of like imminent. So
Yeah.
I have shared your email address, and people who are on my mailing list, when Liz's group is ready, I will make sure that you get details and we'll share the heck out of it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the group. What is the group? What is the purpose of the group?
Okay, so the group, I think at the moment it's possibly a working title, but I think there's going to be, obviously it's the untypical OT, but it'll be Get Curious About Behaviour. There's going to be just a general group which anyone can join, where we'll talk all things behaviour. There'll be posts and bits and pieces on there that will be kind of more general. The idea is, leading on from that, there will be a course. So there'll be a course for, at the moment, I think I'm going to separate it and just concentrate on keeping parents on side. And I'd like to go down the kind of education route as well, looking at professionals and teachers, that kind of side of things. But I think I'm going to keep it separate because I think it's hard sometimes for us as parents to kind of be really open and honest about things, and talking about it can make us really vulnerable. And I want it to be a safe space. So coming on from that, there will be a course where we'll go through, and I think it's going to be around looking at the things behind behaviour. So what causes behaviour, and really digging down into that and coming up with some strategies that might help at home to help. On top of that, I'm looking at probably doing a membership. So in there, again, that would be a bit more around that, they kind of be things like a bit like you do, Heidi. So, having like lives with me where people can pop on and ask questions. There'll be kind of templates in there, any kind of posters and things like that, a bit more information. So yeah, that's basically what it's going to be. So it's going to be called Get Curious About Behaviour.
Amazing. And the kind of like the people who this is for,
yeah,
parents and carers of children who have been flagged as having behaviour issues, or who they're just concerned about their kids. Like, what's
it could just be their concerns. And I think, sometimes as parents, we know, right? I knew right back in the early days, I knew, but I couldn't get anyone to really take me seriously, and no one really knew what was wrong or anything like that. So it's for any parent. You might find, if you've got the diagnosis, I think you probably still get something from it.
Yeah.
It's still, it's quite generic in that way. We're just looking at behaviours. I'm not looking at specific, behaviours in relation to autism, or it's just looking at all the possible reasons underneath, and then there's strategies that you can put in place, because actually it'll become useful for your neurotypical kids, it's for everybody. Maybe even with your partner, I don't know.
Yeah, life skills.
Yeah.
The stuff that no one teaches us that everyone really needs to know.
Yes.
About like what it means to be human.
Yes.
And how humans behave.
Yes. And I think it's just I want to create a group that feels safe. Because you do have to be a little bit vulnerable to start talking about it. And I think as parents, I do the job that I do, and I'm quite happy and hold up my hands. I have made mistakes, and I will continue to make mistakes, and I make them on a regular basis. But the fact that I know, and I want to get better, and I want to change, and I can repair it, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I want it to be safe, that people can go, do you know what? I did this. It wasn't my proudest moment. And I'd like to think about how I'd do that differently next time. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. I think I was running a session with Kate last night, Kate Jones, and we run Unstoppable Parent, and we were doing that last night. And Kate was saying, in all of her years as a therapist, she's a psychotherapist, the thing that she has seen make the biggest difference for people who are in crisis, who are struggling, is being with other people with the same terms of reference.
Absolutely.
So being with other people who know what you're talking about, who know what it means, who understand your pain and your shame, and who will be around whilst you work through that. So this kind of work is absolutely vital, because like you said, we have parents, and I was there, and I know that you were there, who are on their knees, like barely managing to take a breath, because they have been hammered by the system. And this is the stuff, like the community and the skills and the knowledge. These are the bits that make the difference. This is what will lift people out of that and move them through that, and support them while they're working out what that looks like. And, I think it's so vital. So in advance, thank you so much for the incredible work. I know that that group is going to do, because I'm just like, oh, and like when you were talking about it, I was like, yes, yes.
Good. I think it's one of those things that people have always kind of asked me, and this, can I just pick your brain? Even my friends will ring and say, can I just pick your brains? My son's doing this, and I'm not quite, and I've done this about it, and is that right? And I think there's no right or wrong, but let's have a think about what's going on. When did it happen? Why did it happen? You know, and then the biggest thing always is just not dealing with it in the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing for us as parents that have kind of like been through some of that and are maybe out of the worst of it, or maybe things are just different. Like it's forever. Like people are like, how's Theo now? I'm like, still autistic.
Yeah.
And not in crisis anymore, you know? Or not in crisis currently. But I think one of the things that for lots of us, I'm really passionate about parents who have this lived experience and who can bring something else to the community so that they can share things, so that other people can learn from what we had to go through, so they don't have to go through it on quite the same level. It's like, this is what will make the difference.
Even from a personal level, you know, when I was at school and I think about what I was like at school, I was one of the really quiet kids, sat back of the class, never really said much. Now I know why. I was dyslexic and I was really struggling. But no one ever asked why. No one ever thought, I wonder why she's so quiet at the back.
And behaviour can be that as well, right? Behaviour doesn't necessarily mean
absolutely
the house. I mean, it can.
No.
But
people often mistake that bit, and that's the bit I'm only talking about, and it's not. I am talking about those kids that are the quiet, withdrawn, shy kids, anxious kids. I'm talking about those ones too, and how we can help them, and why are they anxious? You know, and sometimes it might be coming to the groups and stuff with me and the trainings, is that you'll be able to dig down deep enough that you'll think, oh, that's where I need to go now. That's where I need to go and get the help from. This is where I'm going, and I'm going to. And now I've got all this lovely knowledge, and I've got all the right terms, and I've tried all this stuff, that I can go to these professionals and say really confidently, this is what I'm seeing, this is why I think it's happening, and I've done this, and this. Now I need your help.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to get a referral in and getting rejected.
That will save people months of heartache, just knowing who to say, what to, right? That's the key, right? So thank you so much for joining us. People who follow me, who are on my mailing list, watch out for more news coming about Liz's work. Go and find Liz, the Untypical OT, on Facebook. There is a Facebook page that you can follow. Make sure your notifications are set so you can see everything that she posts. And if you want to reach out to Liz and make sure that you're getting updates from her, send her an email, hello@the-untypical-ot.co.uk. The most non-dyslexic friendly email address.
I know. But you know what I did? I tried to write it all as one word, Heidi, and I looked at it and thought, oh my God, what does that even say?
That's true.
So I had to separate it out.
So watch this space for more stuff coming from Liz, and watch this space for more interviews with more people who are in my Changemaker series, and stay on. But we're going to end the stream here, and thank you everyone for joining us. Share the shit out of this video. Let everyone know how to find Liz. See you later.
Bye.